I thought I was chasing freedom when I walked away from my marriage. 5 years later, I walked back into the same restaurant, only to realize the life I wanted was the one I'd already had. Hey everyone, thanks for coming back. It means more than I can say. Today I've got a new story to share, and honestly it's one that's been weighing heavy on me for a while. So let's just dive in. I tried to let out a laugh, something to lighten the moment, but what came out sounded more like a sigh that had forgotten how to breathe. You know what hurts the most? I whispered, even though the only one there to hear me was my own reflection staring back at me from the bathroom mirror. I didn't even know what I was hoping to find in all of this. I used to think I craved freedom, maybe a spark of excitement. But now I see it more clearly. I just wanted to matter again. I wanted to feel like I still had something to offer. My name's Michelle. 45 years old. That number looked back at me with quiet judgment from the mirror, etched in the lines under my eyes that had seen too much but still couldn't stop searching. Physically, I was doing all right. I kept in shape, my shoulder-length chestnut hair was carefully highlighted, and my work wardrobe always hit the right note, polished, professional. But inside, something had faded. Something essential. Babe, have you seen my blue tie? My husband's voice floated in from our walk-in closet. That voice, Liam's voice, used to feel like home. Now, it just sounded like part of the background noise, the familiar hum of a life on autopilot. It's in the dry cleaning bag, I called out, adding another swipe of mascara to my lashes, painting on some semblance of energy. Another morning. Another carefully chosen outfit. Another day laid out like an endless, gray stretch of highway with no signs. The silence in the house had become a third presence between us. Without the kids around, everything echoed. Our son Josh was in his second year at college, and our daughter Emily had just started her freshman year. They'd always been our anchors, our shared mission. With them gone, all that was left was space, and that space was so loud it hurt. I found Liam in the kitchen, perched on a stool at the island, eyes glued to his phone, a steaming mug of coffee beside him. He looked good, honestly. The silver strands weaving through his dark hair gave him a kind of effortless grace. He'd kept himself in shape, thanks to his regular tennis matches. If someone looked at us from the outside, we were the American dream. A well-dressed couple with titles in the corporate world, a lovely home in the suburbs, kids who were thriving, and a retirement fund that looked more like a safety net than a plan. But looks lie. Liam, I said, and I could feel my pulse picking up, thudding loud and fast in my chest. My voice stayed calm, but inside I was rattling. Can we talk? He looked up at me, sensing something different in my tone. Is everything okay? He asked, setting his phone down, giving me that familiar problem-solving look he always wore in meetings. I sat down across from him, wrapping both hands around my coffee mug like it might keep me steady. No, I said quietly. It's not. His brows furrowed. What do you mean? We're living like roommates, Liam. Everything's so comfortable, predictable, safe. But where's the passion? Where's the spark? When was the last time we did something just because we felt like it? He frowned, confused but trying to understand. We went to Thailand 3 months ago, he offered. I let out a bitter chuckle. A luxury vacation planned out 6 months in advance down to the last dinner reservation isn't exactly what I mean by spontaneous. And just like that, the frustration started bubbling to the surface even though I tried to keep it down. I didn't just want more, I needed more. Something in me had been starving for years, and I hadn't even realized how deep the hunger went until the words were sitting there between us. Liam's brow furrowed, his features tightening into a look I'd only seen during the worst boardroom crises. What exactly are you saying, Michelle? I inhaled slowly, steadying myself. The lines I'd gone over in my head 1,000 times finally pushed their way past my lips. I want to try an open marriage. And if you can't do that, then I think we need a divorce. The silence that followed could have swallowed the whole room. It wrapped itself around us, thick and unbearable. Liam's hand stopped mid-motion, coffee mug suspended just inches from his mouth. He blinked, stunned. You're not serious, he said, his voice quiet but unervingly steady. I am, I replied, even as my voice betrayed a slight tremble. I still love you, Liam. I do. But I feel like I'm slowly disappearing. We're still young. Don't you ever wonder if there's more out there for us, for each of us? He placed the mug down with care, as if any sudden movement might break something fragile between us. So you're willing to throw away 23 years because you're feeling restless? It's not about being restless, I said, though a small, cold part of me whispered that maybe he wasn't completely wrong. It's about feeling alive again. I'm not asking for a free-for-all. I'm saying maybe we try opening things up first. Just see where it goes. His response came before I'd even finished. No. Just that. Simple. Firm. Final. I don't share, Michelle. You know that about me. If you're really done, then we do this clean. No half measures. But I need you to be sure. Are you absolutely certain this is what you want? I stood slowly, smoothing out the front of my pencil skirt. One of those small, composed gestures I'd mastered after years of leading meetings and making decisions. Yes, I said with more conviction than I felt. We can handle this like adults. We've had a good run. Maybe it's just time we start writing new stories, apart. I grabbed my purse and car keys from the counter, and as I walked toward the door, a strange lightness settled over me. This was it. The leap. The beginning of whatever came next. Adventure. Possibility. A chance to feel that elusive spark again. If only I'd known then what that so-called freedom would end up costing me. I used to think of myself as a practical woman. Logical. Someone who approached life with a level head. But when Liam said no and I still chose to walk away, I didn't realize just how far I was stepping from the life I'd built. But Liam? He'd always been grounded in reality. 23 years of marriage had taught him that love, real love, needed more than sparks and passion. It needed structure. It needed two people willing to do the hard, boring stuff too. So when I dropped the bombshell about either opening our marriage or ending it, he didn't collapse. He didn't beg. He went quiet. And then he got busy. We met a week later at the Gilded Spoon, our go-to Friday night spot. It was familiar territory, soft jazz playing overhead, the clink of wine glasses in the background, couples leaning in close over candles. We'd shared so many meals there. So many quiet victories, so many barely recovered arguments. And now this was where we'd talk about the end. He slid into the booth across from me, his expression calm, composed. But something in his eyes had shifted. He wasn't trying to save us anymore. That much was clear. I've had a week to think, he said as he set down the menu without even looking at it. I've talked to some friends. Read a lot of statistics. Divorce rates, dating apps, post-40 single life. Not because I thought it would change your mind. But because someone's gotta be the grown-up here. There was no malice in his voice. Just a quiet sort of resolve that chilled me. You're really sure this is what you want? I watched her across the table, my eyes lingering on the glass of Pinot Grigio she always ordered. She sipped it slowly, a picture of cool confidence in that striking red dress I hadn't seen before. That look on her face? I recognized it instantly. It was the same expression she wore in corporate negotiations when she thought she had the upper hand. Absolutely, Liam, Michelle said, her manicured fingers absent-mindedly swirling patterns into the condensation on her wine glass. There's an entire world out there waiting. We're attractive, successful. Why shouldn't we see what else is possible? I leaned back in the booth, tugging at my tie just enough to feel like I could breathe. Let's talk about this world you're so excited to run off to. Did you know that for women over 40, the dating pool is estimated to shrink by almost 70% compared to when they were in their 30s? She let out a laugh, light, airy, and just a little too sharp. The kind of laugh she used when she thought someone was being dramatic. Oh, come on. I get checked out by younger guys all the time at the gym. Just last week, one even asked for my number. Michelle, I said, cutting in gently but firmly, getting looks isn't the same as getting love. And let me tell you, hookups aren't the same thing as a relationship. You might attract attention, sure, but finding someone who actually wants to build a life with you? That's an entirely different conversation. I've talked to a lot of divorced guys lately. And if there's one thing they agree on, it's that the dating world at our age isn't what Hollywood promised. You're just trying to scare me, she replied, but I heard it, that tiny hitch in her voice. Just a flicker of hesitation she couldn't quite hide. I'm trying to prepare you, I said, leaning in now, my voice quieter, more intentional. You're a strong woman, Michelle, and I respect that. But you're heading into a world that plays by very different rules. In the boardroom, being a smart, successful woman in her 40s is a huge asset. But in the dating market? Most of the men our age are either already married or they're chasing after women in their 20s. And the ones who are available? A lot of them are dragging behind enough emotional baggage to sink a cruise ship. She shifted in her seat, lifting her chin and setting her shoulders like she used to when gearing up for a tough meeting. Then I'll date younger men, she said coolly. I'm in great shape, I make my own money, and I have no reason to settle. You, on the other hand, will be competing with women 15 years younger who want the exact same men. Her words were sharp, no doubt meant to rattle me. But instead I just nodded slowly. She was right in a way. We'd both be stepping into unfamiliar waters, chasing new connections in a world neither of us really understood. What she didn't see, what she didn't want to see, was that I wasn't trying to win an argument. I was trying to bring her back down to earth before it all came crashing down around her. I leaned forward, cutting her off before she could spin another idealistic line. Look, I'm not saying you won't find someone. You're still a beautiful woman. But this whole fantasy you've created about men lining up around the block? That's not how the real world works. She raised an eyebrow, her tone laced with sarcasm. Sounds like you've been thinking about this a lot. Worried about your own odds. I couldn't help but chuckle at that. Sweetheart, I'm a man in my 40s, financially stable, good career, no drama, no debt. I'll be just fine. But I'm not the one pretending this is going to turn into some feel-good rom-com where eligible women are throwing themselves at me. Her expression darkened. You're being condescending. No, I replied calmly, I'm being honest. If you're looking for casual fun, sure, you'll probably find that. But if what you're chasing is connection, something real, something lasting, that's where it gets complicated. The truth is, men our age who are serious about building something, most of them are either already taken or they're looking for someone younger. Especially the ones who still want to start families. Not everyone wants kids, she shot back, her voice firm. True, I said with a nod. But most want the option. And that option matters to them. She didn't say anything right away. Just sat there slowly swirling her wine, the gears in her mind clearly turning. I knew that look too well. It was the one she wore before every major decision in the boardroom. We weren't talking about love anymore, we were measuring risk, weighing odds. Look, I added, watching her carefully, I'm not trying to stop you. If you've made up your mind, then okay. But don't walk out of here thinking this is going to be some glossy adventure where you're spoiled for choice. The dating scene has changed, Michelle. It's not like it was when we were 20. For the first time since she walked in, she didn't have a comeback. Just silence. Thoughtful, heavy silence. Then she looked up at me, something sharp flickering in her eyes. So what, you think you'll do better than me out there? I shrugged and reached for the check. I guess we're both going to find out, aren't we? I said, signaling to the waiter. But just, remember this conversation. A few years from now, when the reality doesn't quite match what you thought it would be. Her lips curved into a smirk, and I saw the old competitive gleam light up in her eyes. How about we make it interesting then? She said, leaning in over her wine glass. I tilted my head, curious. What kind of interesting? 5 years from today. Same time, same place, she said, her voice low and deliberate. We meet again and see who's really better off. I studied her then, really studied her. The woman I'd shared a life with for 23 years. The face I'd woken up beside nearly every morning. The woman I had once planned to grow old with. And even though I nodded, even though I agreed to her little wager, a part of me already knew, no matter who won, we were both about to lose something we'd never truly get back. I knew every inch of her, every curve, every subtle cue. The tiny twitch at the corner of her mouth that showed up when she was bracing for resistance. After all these years, I could read her like a familiar page. And yet, she had no idea what she was really walking into. But some lessons? Some you don't understand until they hurt. Some you have to live through before you believe. Deal, I said, signing the check with one smooth motion. 5 years. Same table. I hope you're ready for a slice of humble pie. She gave me that trademark half smile, cool, composed, a little too proud. Then, without another word, she stood up, smoothed out the fabric of her red dress with calculated grace, and walked out of the restaurant like she'd just closed another successful deal. I watched her go, the sway of her hips, the rhythmic click of her heels echoing across the tiled floor. There was certainty in her step, maybe even a little defiance. And in that moment I felt it, not anger, not bitterness, but something deeper. Sadness. A quiet grief. A grim sort of resignation. She was always like that. Stubborn. Fiercely independent. The kind of woman who had to touch the fire herself before believing it could burn. And this was going to be her trial by flame. I've never been the type to easily admit when I'm wrong. Ask anyone close to me, I'd sooner chew nails than say I made a mistake. But now, sitting alone in my high-rise condo, scrolling through dating apps for what feels like the 100th time, I'm starting to wonder if I royally messed this up. This wasn't how I pictured it going. The divorce itself? Clean, efficient. When two people are high earners with no custody battles, it mostly comes down to signatures. We handled it like we handled everything, professionally. I kept the condo in the city, she took the house in the suburbs. We split the assets, divided the retirement accounts, untangled a shared life with the same precision we used to balance spreadsheets. You're a catch, my friend Sarah said the first time I dipped my toe back into dating. Successful, intelligent, financially secure. Men are going to line up for someone like you. I wanted to believe her. I really did. And at first it wasn't terrible. There were some dinners, a few coffee dates. Mostly with divorced men around my age. Men who either spent the evening venting about their ex-wives or talking endlessly about their golf swing. Some were kind. Some were charming. But none of them felt like home. And then, 6 months after the divorce, I saw him again. Liam. It was at a charity gala we used to attend every spring. I hadn't even planned to go. But I did. Maybe a part of me hoped I'd run into him. Maybe a part of me just missed feeling part of something familiar. He wasn't alone. She was young. Maybe 30. Maybe less. Long hair, bright eyes, confident in a way that only comes with youth and attention. I didn't need to ask. My daughter, Emily, had already told me her name. Her name's Chloe, she had said casually, like it wasn't a knife sliding gently between my ribs. I remember sitting on Sarah's couch later that same night, pretending I was fine. Acting like it didn't sting. I swirled my wine and gave her the most casual shrug I could muster. She's 28, I said, trying to sound indifferent. Mia told me Liam met her volunteering at some fundraiser. Apparently she's really sweet, and she has a little girl who adores him. Even my own daughter had sounded impressed. That part hit harder than I let on. That's when I made what I now know was my first real misstep. I decided I was going to start dating younger men. Not because I was interested in anyone in particular, but because I felt like I needed to win something. Reclaim something. I was hurt and I wanted to prove I could still turn heads too. Now, let me be clear, there's nothing wrong with being the older woman in the relationship if that's your thing. Plenty of women thrive in that dynamic. But when you're doing it from a place of insecurity and quiet revenge, that's not empowerment. That's emotional quicksand. Soon, my inbox was filled with messages from guys in their early 30s. Hey gorgeous, want to grab a drink? You've got that sexy CEO vibe and I'm here for it. They'd take me to loud rooftop bars, introduce me to their friends with a grin like I was a luxury handbag they'd borrowed for the night. They'd hang around for a few weeks, then disappear without warning, ghosting me like I was a phase they were trying out. One of them even had the audacity to ask if I could help him polish his resume, said I had that executive energy. I wanted to laugh. Instead, I just nodded and quietly deleted his number. You're just picking the wrong guys, Sarah said, sipping her tea, always the optimist. Easy for her to say, she's been with her college sweetheart for over 20 years. She never had to swipe through endless profiles of men holding dead fish or posing shirtless in bathroom mirrors, bragging about crypto and looking for someone to chill, vibe, and maybe settle down if it feels right. But the real slap in the face came at my company's annual holiday party. I brought Jake, 34, a personal trainer, gorgeous and charming enough to make it seem like a good idea. We'd been seeing each other casually for a few weeks and I figured, why not? Big mistake. He spent the entire night chatting up everyone, asking which executives had the highest salaries, casually fishing for job leads in our sales department. He didn't ask me a single question about the event. Or the company. Or me really. The next morning my assistant, Kelsey, knocked lightly on my office door. Ms. Davies, she said, her voice hesitant, just wanted to flag something. Jake was, getting a little too friendly with the interns last night. A couple of them mentioned it. And there it was. That moment. The clarity. The sting of embarrassment settling in my chest. I'd become her, the woman I used to quietly pity at networking events. The one trying to turn back time with lipstick and a younger man on her arm. The one who became a running joke in whispers by the bar. A walking cliché. A punchline. I used to silently judge women like that at corporate mixers. The ones clinging to youth through cocktail dresses and eager companions half their age. And yet here I was no different. Not really. But the dating apps for people in my own age bracket weren't much better. Men in their 50s didn't want women their own age. They wanted someone younger, 10 years, sometimes 15. The ones who didn't? They were usually hiding something. A gambling habit. An ongoing battle with alcohol. Or, in more than one case, a wife they conveniently forgot to mention. Maybe you should take a break from dating, my son Ben suggested during one of our weekly FaceTime calls. It caught me off guard, hearing something so adult come out of my son's mouth. When had that happened? When had I become the one getting advice from my kid about love, heartbreak, and starting over? Meanwhile, Liam's life seemed like something out of a lifestyle magazine. His social media painted the perfect picture. Him volunteering at animal shelters, hiking scenic trails, relaxing on beaches. Always smiling. Always looking rested. Oh. There were photos of him with Chloe and her little girl at basketball games, at school plays, family barbecues. They fit together. Effortlessly. They got married last month, Mia told me, flipping through her phone to show me the wedding photos. He looked radiant. She looked like a dream. I told Mia I was happy for him. I even smiled. But inside, it was something else entirely. I've started therapy recently. Dr. Evans says I'm on a journey of self-discovery, her phrase, not mine. I call it cleaning up my mess. Sorting through the wreckage of a life I detonated with my own hands. At our last session, she leaned in, her voice soft but clear. What were you really searching for when you ended your marriage? I didn't have an answer then. Truth is, I still don't. Adventure? Passion? Freedom? Maybe. Whatever I was chasing, I haven't found it. Not in the endless stream of forgettable first dates. Not in the charming conversations that fizzle out before dessert. Not in the wine-soaked evenings that end with me deleting and re-downloading dating apps like it's some twisted routine. And now, the 5-year mark is just days away. Next week, I'll walk into the Gilded Spoon again. Same table, same time. Just like we agreed. I'll sit across from Liam. Look him in the eye. And I'll have to face it. Face him. Face the truth I've been avoiding since the day I walked out that door. He was right. I traded something real for an illusion. Gave up 23 years of love, history, partnership. For what? For the idea that life on the other side would be more thrilling. More alive. It wasn't. Turns out, the grass on the other side wasn't grass at all. It was artificial turf. Polished, pretty, but cold and fake the moment you took your shoes off. I stared at my phone, thumb hovering over yet another dating app. Then I closed it. I got up, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat by the window, the city lights flickering outside like ghosts of missed chances. Tomorrow? Maybe I'll download the app again. Still chasing something. Still hoping. But tonight I let myself feel it. All of it. That night, sitting alone with my glass of wine, I let myself really remember. Not just the pain. Not the arguments. But the quiet, steady warmth of being part of something real. What it felt like to be seen, not for the titles on my business card, not for the roles I could play, but for me. For who I was when the meetings ended, when the suits came off, when the doors were closed. God, I hate being wrong. Everyone thinks the hardest part of divorce is the moment you sign the papers. It's not. That part's procedural. Sign here, initial there, goodbye. The real pain comes the next morning. When you wake up in a house that echoes with its own emptiness, and you realize the person who once knew every inch of your life isn't coming back. That's when it hits. You're not just divorced, you're alone. And now you have to figure out who you are without them. And here's the thing, something I learned that Michelle didn't, at least not yet. Sometimes you have to tear everything down to the studs before you can build something stronger in its place. That first year I kept to myself. There were a few casual dates here and there. Empty connections, forgettable nights. And afterward I always felt worse. Like I was trying to fill a void with sand. Nothing stuck. Nothing satisfied. So I stopped looking for anyone else and started looking inward instead. You're different lately, my tennis partner Paul said one morning after I beat him for the 3rd time that month. More focused. He wasn't wrong. I poured all the drive I used to reserve for closing deals into rebuilding me. I hit the gym 5 days a week, not to impress anyone but because I liked how strong I felt. I picked up meditation, started journaling. Even took up cooking, badly at first. I began volunteering at a local support center for veterans, helping with admin and outreach programs. Not to meet someone. That just happened. Chloe started showing up every Thursday, working with veterans' families to navigate the tangled web of benefits and resources. She knew it intimately. Her husband, David, had been a Marine Corps captain. Killed in action 3 years earlier. She wasn't there looking for companionship. She was there because helping others helped her feel close to him. She wasn't looking for a relationship. Neither was I. Her daughter Lily was 5, bright, sharp, full of questions. She'd sit in the little library tucked into the back of the center, working on her homework. "Mom, you're late," she'd call as Chloe came in from work, hands full of folders and folders full of lives. She reminded me of Mia at that age. That same spark. That same stubbornness. Things started slow. A coffee after a shift. Conversations about grief, about rebuilding. Walking Lily to her school bus when Chloe had early meetings. No pressure. No grand declarations. Just presence. "You're good with her," Chloe said one afternoon, watching me crouched beside Lily, helping her puzzle through a tricky math worksheet. Her voice was soft, almost cautious, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to feel what she was starting to feel. I just smiled. She makes it easy. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't trying to replace what I'd lost. I was building something new. Something real. Something slow and steady and deeply earned. I miss having a kid around, I admitted one evening as Lily fell asleep on the couch with a picture book still resting on her chest. Mine are all grown up now. What started as 3 months of volunteering turned into 6. 6 became a year. And somewhere in that quiet unfolding of time, our casual coffee chats turned into longer conversations, deeper silences, softer smiles. What I had with Chloe didn't come from sparks, it came from warmth. Slow, steady warmth. Chloe understood loss. Not just the brutal, sudden finality of death, but the quieter, more disorienting loss of the life you thought you were going to live. The version of the future that slipped through your fingers without you realizing it. I'm divorced, I told her on what we called our first official date. We were sitting outside a small cafe near the center, the autumn air crisp around us. She gave me a little smile, her fingers wrapped around her mug. My ex-wife wanted more excitement, I said. Chloe let out a soft laugh, not cruel, not mocking, just real. I think I've had enough excitement for one lifetime, she said. I'll take steady and reliable any day. That's when I knew. She saw value in the very things Michelle had dismissed. Where Michelle saw routine, Chloe saw stability. Where Michelle had longed for spontaneity, Chloe longed for peace. Winning over Lily, though, that took time. And I respected that. She'd already lost one father figure. Her heart had been hurt in ways that can't be patched with just kind words and good intentions. But little by little we found our rhythm. Over science projects, trips to the planetarium, shared basketball games on rainy Saturdays, and a whole lot of space documentaries. The girl was obsessed with NASA. She'd talk for hours about galaxies and dark matter, her eyes lighting up like stars themselves. The first time she called me Dad was at her school's winter concert. She was wearing a lopsided paper crown, fidgeting in her seat, and she leaned over without thinking. Dad, can you see from here? Just like that. No fanfare. No hesitation. Like it had always been that way. I didn't say a word. Just nodded, smiled, and kept my eyes on the stage. But inside, my heart nearly split wide open. 2 years in, I proposed to Chloe. No flash, no big show. Just the three of us, me, her, and Lily, who gave her blessing with a grin and a dramatic, "You have my permission." She insisted on being both flower girl and best man. Somehow she pulled it off without missing a beat. You've been watching your ex's wedding posts, haven't you? Mia asked during one of our regular calls. My daughter never misses a beat. Maybe once or twice, I admitted. Clara's social media had turned into a strange sort of highlight reel. New cities, new clothes, new men, each one younger, flashier, more curated than the last. The captions screamed independence. The eyes behind the filters whispered something else entirely. She's not happy, Dad, Mia said softly. That's not my responsibility anymore, sweetheart, I replied. And I meant it. Our wedding was quiet. Just family, a few close friends, and the folks from the Veteran Center. Chloe wore a simple cream dress that suited her perfectly, graceful, grounded. No big ballroom, no dramatic speeches. Just peace. Just us. Later that night, curled beside me on the porch swing, Chloe looked up and asked, "Do you think your ex-wife will show up for that 5-year meeting?" I looked out at the fading twilight, the sky washed in purples and blues. Probably. She never could resist a challenge, I said with a quiet smile, pulling Chloe closer beneath the blanket. The wind whispered through the porch swing as her head rested on my shoulder. But that meeting at the Gilded Spoon? That was next month's problem. As I drifted off that night, I thought about the strange way life unfolds. 5 years ago, I believed my chance at lasting happiness had walked out the door with Michelle. I was certain that was the end of something irreplaceable. But now I see it differently. It wasn't the end. It was a clearing. A painful, necessary space being made for something more genuine. Not more thrilling. Not full of fireworks and drama. But something real. Steady. Something that lifted me up instead of exhausting me. Sometimes freedom isn't about escape, it's about finding a safe harbor. A place to drop anchor and breathe. 5 years. 1,825 days since I made the decision that shattered the foundation of my life. Now I'm standing outside the Gilded Spoon, peering through the glass. There he is, Liam. Our old table. Same spot by the window. He looks incredible. Of course he does. Annoyingly handsome in a tailored navy suit, hair now streaked with silver that somehow makes him look more refined, not older. I watch as he sips his wine, composed as ever. My hands shake as I glance at my reflection in my phone screen. 5 years older and I've fought every inch of it, Botox, serums, personal trainers, every trick in the book. Still attractive. Still successful. Still alone. The universe must really love irony. Miss Davies, the hostess greets me with a polite smile as I walk in. Miss Davies now, I guess. She knows. Of course she knows. Everyone in our circle knows by now. Liam rises as I approach, that same old grace in his every movement. Always the gentleman. Michelle, he says, and his voice is warm, not forced, not bitter, just kind. And something inside me cracks a little at that. You look well, I manage, sliding into the seat across from him. I manage, he replies with a half smile. Same table. Same wine list. Everything's the same. Except us, I say. Except us, he agrees. So do you, he says, and I appreciate the lie. It's soft, polite. A kindness. Wine? He offers, gesturing toward the list. I shake my head. I think I need a clear head for this conversation. And honestly, I don't quite trust myself with alcohol these days. He nods with understanding, no judgment in his eyes. When he talks about Chloe and Lily, there's a light in his face I can't ignore. That unmistakable glow of someone who has built something meaningful. Something full of love. They're wonderful, he says softly. Lily's on the debate team now. Reminds me of Mia at that age, sharp, passionate, always ready with a counterpoint. Of course she does. Of course he ended up with a family, a second chance at something whole. And me? What did I get? A string of dating horror stories. A therapist I call so often we're practically friends. A collection of regrets wrapped in designer dresses and forced smiles. I've been following your posts, I admit, trying to keep my voice from wavering. You seem happy. I am, he says softly. Then he looks at me for a long moment, his eyes not judging, not unkind, just seeing. Then gently he asks, are you? The question hits like a body blow. Not cruel. Just true. 5 years ago I would have smiled, deflected, made some clever remark and tucked the real answer away behind charm and lipstick. But not now. No, I say, my voice flat, honest. No, I'm not. You were right, I add, eyes locked with his. About everything. He doesn't gloat. He doesn't smirk. He just nods slowly. And somehow that hurts more than if he'd rubbed it in. The dating world's different now, I say, trying to laugh, but it comes out brittle. Changed a lot since we were in it. That's an understatement, he says gently. I stare at the half-full water glass in front of me, fingers tightening around the base. You know what the worst part is? I didn't even know what I was looking for. I kept saying I wanted freedom, excitement, passion, but I think I just wanted to feel special again. His voice is soft. You were always special, Michelle. I hold up my hand before he can say more. Please, don't be kind. I don't deserve that. He falls silent. I made a huge mistake, I say, my throat tightening. I blew up 23 years because I was bored. Because I was entitled. Because I thought the world owed me something, some epic, sweeping romance to make me feel alive again. I didn't even realize how good I had it, until I threw it away. The silence that follows is dense. Not awkward, just full of everything that can't be said anymore. Outside the window, I see a young couple strolling past, hands intertwined, heads tilted together in laughter. Lost in their own little world. A world I used to know. I'm happy for you, I say quietly, turning back to him. Take care of yourself, Liam. On instinct, without thinking, I reach across the table and fix his tie. A small, familiar gesture, one I'd done 1,000 times before. From another life. You too, Michelle, he says, his voice calm, full of something like forgiveness. I stand, my chair sliding softly across the floor. And this time I don't look back. Not at the table, not at Liam. My heels echo against the sidewalk, each step clicking through a fog of what-ifs and maybes. But there's a strange kind of peace in finally admitting the truth. Some freedoms cost more than you're prepared to pay. Some lessons only reveal themselves when it's far too late to apply them. At least one of us got their happy ending.